Welcome back, viewers, to the 4 race replays here from Warden Law in Sunderland. And you join us in this video for the first Northern Heavyweight race of the year. You join us in this video for Heavyweight Race 1, and starting on pole position for this race, having qualified on pole in the Heavyweight qualifying, is Jockey Wilson, who is the 2024 Northern Renton Karting League Lightweight Champion. Joining him on the front row is Dave Sumner, who won in Split 2 back at Tamworth last year. And then on row 2 are two friends in the form of Wesley Chung and Freddie Winskill, both of whom are locals here at Warden Law. Starting then on row 3 are two of our front runners from last year's Northern Heavyweight Championship in the form of James Clare and Lewis Jolly, who finished 7th and 5th respectively last year. And Sol Gregory is then starting in P7. He was a front runner in the championship as soon as he joined halfway through last season. He'll be hoping for a strong season this year, and he's starting on row 4 alongside Ash Shivers, who finished on the podium at round 1 at Sandham Park.
So our first heavyweight race of the day here at Warden Law, moments away from getting started, and is Jockey Wilson on pole position with Dave Sumner alongside him on the front row. Away they go, and it is a great launch from Dave Sumner, who's going side by side with Wilson and is going to try and take the lead, but a poor start from Wesley Chung. He's potentially going to get swallowed up the inside of him goes James Clare and Freddie Winskill and Lewis Jolly too, so loads of places lost unfortunately for Wesley Chung there, but a absolutely textbook getaway from Dave Sumner then for the English deaf karting team, who is obviously so accomplished. As you see them going 3 and 4 wide in the background. Ian Wilson trying to survive on the inside of, I think that was Adam Thompson there through St John's. Yeah, you can very much see Dave Sumner making a break for it as they negotiate the centre S's there. Oh, Lewis Jolly looks like he's a little bit under attack. I believe that's Sol Gregory just nipping at his heels then as they go into the Dunlop chicane there. Oh, a bit of side-on action. That looks like, I think, Brittany Norfolk going toe-to-toe with a couple of drivers. There's a huge pack with Lewis Ashforth right in the middle of it, just outside the verges of the top 10 there, coming through Gasworks hairpin. And everybody shuffling for position then, but here comes Dave Sumner with a big gap already, looking to complete the first lap of the race then. Behind him, James Clare holding on to P2. And then we've got a bit of a pack then with a Freddie Winskill going up the inside, taking that third position away from Jockey Wilson then. So Wilson has gone from pole to 4th then, and now he may even have Lewis Jolly to deal with then as they exit the dogleg and race towards St John's. Once again, Freddie Winskill in the blue overalls, yellow helmet. He is very, very determined here to stay on that podium in the first heavyweight encounter of the day, as they continue to squabble side by side a bit further down the pack. Behind Lewis Jolly, we've got Wesley Chung in 6th, Sol Gregory 7th, Anthony Deverell 8th, Lewis Ashforth 9th, and Simon Fulton completing the top 10 just ahead of Colin Marshall and Alex Cowley. So it's going to continue to be very, very close behind. Sumner definitely escaping up the road at Warden Law like a scolded cat. 78.6 his fastest lap at the end of lap 1. Here he comes at the end of lap 2. His gap over James Clare extending to 1.5 seconds now. Freddie Winskill is now back, is still behind James Clare in P3. With Jonathan Wilson, I did see Wilson shake his head as he went over start finish line the previous lap. There's a bit of a battle near the back of the grid. I believe that's Chris Shield, Cale Simmons and Harry Lamb all swapping through the first couple of corners. Lewis Ashforth losing out in the pink BWT suit to Anthony Deverell in the battle for P8. So we're still very, very bunched together. Simon Fulton with the fastest lap of the race in P10 at the moment, 74.2, but laps will get quicker. This is very much going to turn, I suspect, into a battle for P4. Jonathan Wilson holding off Lewis Jolly. Yeah, Lewis Jolly looks for a move up the inside into turn one, but has to back off into the dog leg. This is allowing Wesley Chung and Saul Gregory to start to congregate behind them. You see Anthony Deverell looking back over his shoulder in P8 at Lewis Ashforth and Simon Fulton, chasing them down up the inside into the first part of the centre S. Attempts Deverell as he tries a move on Saul Gregory, but Saul Gregory saw that one coming a mile off. Oh, it's like Chelsea Constantinu making a move to get out of last position past Keane Stanton. And making it stick, so good move by Arthur there. But up front, Windschool starting to drop back a little bit from James Clare. Our top three very much Warden Law regulars here. Sumner sets a 73.8 and extends the gap to James Clare by another couple attempts. It does look like Lewis Jolly has passed Jonathan Wilson now for P4. Wilson under pressure now from Wesley Chung. Wesley Chung in the number 17 car, grey overalls, jet black helmet. Oh, Saul Gregory under attack by Deverell again into the centre S. Is all Lewis Jolly. Slightly delayed, bit of contact as it looks like Jonathan Wilson, very keen, having been dropped off the podium positions in the early couple of laps, to reassert his position. Shuffling through the Dunlop chicane near the back of the field for the positions outside the top 18. Here we go, warning flag for car number 30 showing. Which isn't just, that's the second race in a row that's happened. Oh, more slipstream, looks like Ian Wilson now going up the inside of that looked like Lewis Ashforth. Ashforth has dropped to P14, I think. P15 now that Wilson's got through. Anthony Deverell back in P8 now with Simon Fulton behind him, and then Alex Cowley in P10. So Cowley from a lower grid position is now starting to get into the mix here. But this is where it could get quite physical. You can see Lewis Jolly is slowly catching up to Freddie Windschool in the battle for P3, and he is dragging Jonathan Wilson, Wesley Chung, Saul Gregory and Anthony Deverell with him. That huge train of carts stretching all the way down, I believe, to Colin Marshall and Robert Southworth and Lewis Ashforth. So we have a potentially a 12-way battle for P3 on the cards here. Sumner though, well clear of that as he beats his personal best yet again. Extends the gap to James Clare to 2.8 seconds. Clare has got no answer, but does Freddie Windschool have an answer for Lewis Jolly behind him? Freddie Windschool, always a bit of a joker in the pack. Has he got any tricks up his sleeve that he can use? Well, he has got one in the form of Jonathan Wilson that may be able to get past Lewis Jolly yet again. But Windschool ideally would want to be as clear away from this fight as much as possible. Has he got the pace to do so? He made a brilliant start off the line. Lewis Jolly closing in into Gasworks, hairpin. Again, Freddie Windschool blocks his way. Dave Sumner completes at another lap. As you see, Freddie Windschool moving back to the racing line as quickly as possible. if anything, it looks like Jonathan Wilson is really having to defend from Wesley Chung. Chung driving a very strong race so far. Adam Thompson further back in the field, having a great fight with what looks like Phil Jackson and Ian Simpson right behind him. And of course the fight for P24 up front. Looks like Winscole's got a little bit of breathing room now over Jolly as we see Wesley Chung finally having a go at Wilson into Dunlop chicane. Oh, and somebody jumps it completely. My goodness, was that, I think, Saul Gregory in trouble there. So he rejoins. But in that chaos, I think Anthony Deverell and Alex Cowley may have gotten through there. So let's see. Actually, no, I think Saul Gregory may have survived that. He's still in the thick of the battle. So here comes Sumner, Clare, Winscall and Jolly together in that fight for P3. Wilson, then Chung, then Gregory, Deverell and Stuart Roper 9th, Simon Fulton 10th. So I think it was Marshall and Ash Chivers that lost a load of positions there. So Colin Marshall also losing out in that battle. But yeah, Wesley Chung is ahead now of Wilson. So of course it was Wilson, I think, that we saw going over the Ian Wilson falling to P14 then as he went over the curb. Still more battling going on just ahead. That's Ashworth, Southworth and Fulton fighting over P10. Through the Dunlop chicane now. Ashworth trying to go up the inside of Southworth. Lewis Jolly is all over the back of Freddie Winscall like a cheap suit now as they go into paddock and horseshoe. Well, you can't be far from the end of the race now, and Dave Sumner has very much got things his own way, but Lewis Jolly is throwing the kitchen sink at Freddie Winscall here. Winscall in the yellow helmet and blue suit, Lewis Jolly in the red helmet and the black and white suit. So that is the fight for the final podium position, but there is an intense fight just to get into the top 15 here. Everybody coming out of St. John's and looking over their shoulders to block off any attacks into the center S. Winscall, his head is looking back over his shoulder pretty much every few seconds. Lewis Jolly, Wesley Chung as well, and Jonathan Wilson. Looks like Wilson did actually get back into P5, back ahead of Wesley Chung there. Here we go, checkered flag out, and Dave Sumner crosses it, lifts his hand, looks behind, sees a huge gap to James Clare behind him, nearly 5 seconds. James Clare nonetheless takes P2, and it is Winscall that just beats Lewis Jolly over the line. A fantastic fight between those two. Jonathan Wilson holds on to P5 despite a strong challenge from Wesley Chung. Then it is Saul Gregory who takes 7th, Anthony Deverell 8th, Stuart Roper 9th, and Simon Fulton rounds out the top 10. I think Stuart Roper just beat Simon Fulton over the finish line, sorry. Lewis Ashforth is P11, ahead of Ian Wilson, who did get back up to P12. Alex Cowley fell to P13 by the end, as we see our final few finishers crossing the line. Then it's Robert Southwell in 14th, Ben Pickard 15th, Brittany Norfolk in 16th, 17th was Chris Shield, Colin Marshall finished 18th, Andre Pirahuda was 19th, Arthur Bennett rounded out the top 20, Adam Gudgeon was 21st, ahead of Cale Simmons, Ash Chivers 23rd for the man on the podium last time out at Sandown. He'll be hoping for a stronger race too. Phil Jackson was 24th, Adam Thompson 25th, Henry Lamb 26th ahead of Ian Simpson, Junior Bruno was 28th, Arthur Constantinou was 29th, Jordan Forbes was 30th, and Kean Stanton was 31st and last, falling to the back on that final lap.
So Dave Sumner